right, I am Jackie Boyle. I am a retired high school teacher, and my husband and I moved from Ohio to Indiana 10 years ago. He's still working, but I'm retired from teaching. I have 2 grown children and 2 grandchildren. I've been a CASA for 5 years now, and I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with the volunteering. So far, so good.
Good. Thank you for sharing. So what does it mean to you to be a CASA advocate?
A lot of different things. First and foremost, I know that I'm doing something important by helping children who need help, children and families who need help, with a focus on the kids. So that has really been fulfilling. And that's what I expected. What I didn't expect was how much I was going to learn from this experience. I learned a lot about the court system, about DCS, about families who are struggling from poverty or drug abuse. And I also learned a lot about myself. And I'm very happy that I've had this eye-opening experience to let me see into a part of the world that I had never touched before. I think it's important for us to know that there are people out there who are struggling and need help. So I think it's been a two-way street here. I know I'm helping children and families, and I've learned a lot also.
Yes.
And I'm very grateful.
Good. I'm glad you feel that way about taking these cases.
I do. I absolutely do.
Yes. Like, we're in our communities and we don't even know half the things that are going on until we really get involved with these cases and these families. And we're like, this is happening right under my nose. Like, this is happening where I live. Yes. So I really love that you touched on that, because that was huge for me too. I was like,
and not only that too, but there's a lot of help out there for these families. And unless they've been in the system before, they don't know it. They don't know that there's help. And a lot of times all I have to do is ask. And then there are resources. I don't know all of the help that's available, but I know where to go to find it. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yes, absolutely. So what is your favorite moment or your favorite success of being a CASA volunteer? And this could be like a small little moment with a kiddo or the whole outcome of a case.
I have had many wonderful moments. Very few where I would say, oh, that didn't go well. But I think my most significant is my very first case. I had a little 5-year-old boy who was still in diapers. He did have a speech impediment, but in addition to that, when he tried to talk, he couldn't understand a word he said. And he had some very odd behavior, sometimes even violent, because of the severe abuse and neglect that he experienced from the time he was born until he was 5 years old, including sexual abuse. But from the time I had him, I think I had him for almost 2 years. He had been in 4 different foster homes. 2 of those foster homes I fought to get him out of because they were not a good fit for this little guy. The 4th foster home came along. 2 parents who were elementary school teachers and who totally understood this little guy and his problems with learning and speaking and everything else. And they showed me and this little boy what living in a loving, nurturing environment can do. They turned that little guy's life around and adopted him. I couldn't have been happier for that little guy and for the whole family. And interestingly enough, I run into his biological mom every once in a while in the grocery store, and she's very positive and she's very happy that he's in a good place. Of course, I can't give her any specifics at all. She just wants to know, is he okay? And I say, yeah, he's in a good place. So I think, I've been in this for 5 years. I've had lots of kids, but that one really stands out because he needed that love and nurturing, and he got it.
I love that. And one thing you talked about is that he was removed from 2 different foster homes because they just weren't a good fit. And when you think
No.
foster homes, that's not, the idea that a lot of us have of them. So how do you come to the conclusion that like this foster home is not a good fit for somebody?
Well, I knew that in his foster homes, he was physically safe and his needs were being met. There's no question about that. However, emotionally, those foster parents did not understand him and did not cut him any slack for the kind of trauma that he's been through. For example, in one home, he could only color with one crayon at a time, had to put it back in the box. He had to ask permission to leave to go from one room to the next. Emotionally, this little guy just couldn't fulfill the expectations in that foster home. And he was acting out badly. Well, it was clear to me why he was acting out badly. And I had to kind of fight to get him out of that one because his needs were being met and he was safe, but not emotionally. So he ended up in a really good place.
And I feel like I just have to comment, that's something that only a CASA would really, I feel like, recognize and really push to have that change. So without you there, he might have just stayed in that foster home and he could have even been adopted by these people potentially down the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the school in the system where he was living at the time wasn't a good fit for him either. And I thought, this child doesn't have a chance unless he gets into a different environment. So I consider that my first success story and probably my most memorable.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, Jackie. What would you tell someone that's considering being a volunteer?
Okay, I have to tell you that when I started to look for volunteer work, I looked for something that would fit my skills. I was an English teacher, so I thought maybe I could tutor. I didn't want to substitute teach. Oh no, been there, done that. But I thought I could tutor somewhere, so I started looking for volunteer opportunities. And CASA kept popping up over and over and over. And I looked at it and thought, oh, that's way out of my comfort level. I can't do that. I don't know enough about that. So I kept scrolling past it. A year and a half later, I'm still looking and CASA's still popping up. So I thought, okay, I'll look into this. And I did, and I still thought that it was out of my comfort level. But then I also discovered that there was extensive training involved and an entire support staff. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go for it. And I had the interview with the director. I met some of the support staff. I looked over the outline for the training and thought, I think I can do this. And I think the training did prepare me. And I felt pretty comfortable when I started my first case that I pretty much knew what I was doing. But I also had a mentor helping me every step of the way throughout that first case. So I would say, don't be afraid to jump into this. If you think it's out of your comfort level, know that there is support and that there is training and you're going to be fine. I will say though, it isn't for some people. Some people have gotten into the training process and discovered, oh, this isn't for me. And that's okay. That's what that training should show you. And it effectively, I think, does.
Yes, absolutely. This is not for everybody. And
No, it isn't.
Between our background checks and our interviews and our training, I think before we get them out into the real world of CASA, they have an understanding that either yes or no, this is for me or not for me.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask me, they say, oh, I could never do that. I'd be sobbing and crying all the time. I'd be so upset. Don't you get upset? And I say, no, I get mad. And, I jump in there and I make sure that this child is going to be okay to the best of my ability. I have not had the crying, upset situations at all because I feel like I can do something. It's not hopeless. Yeah,
and I think sometimes that anger we feel can just fuel our passion that much more because we see an injustice and we're like, this is not okay. This kid is vulnerable, they're a victim, and they need better. Okay, Jackie, one last question for you.
Okay.
What is one thing people need to know about what CASA does?
Oh, this is a big one. Um, they need to know that when children are in DCS, they have no voice. Some of them can't even speak. They're so young. So I think what people need to know is that a CASA gives that child a voice in court. There will be all kinds of adults expressing their opinions, some of them loudly and clearly. It's the child that should be the focus of that courtroom, however, and that's where the CASA comes in. The CASA is that child's voice.
I love that. That's such a good note to end on. So thank you, Jackie, for doing this for me and for your time. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thanks.